One of the key methods of emotional abuse that is employed by narcissistic abusers is the generalized concept of something known as cognitive dissonance. And what this abuse tactic truly does is create in the victim a sense of unreality, a sense of confusion, and a mindset of not trusting their own perception of the situation. And essentially, cognitive dissonance occurs when humans experience a state of holding two or more contradictory thoughts or beliefs in their cognition at one time. The result is a very anxious confusion and a desire to reduce the resultant overwhelmed feeling and the unbalanced perception. A very simplistic and condensed example in a toxic relationship. An abuser professes love and divines a marriage date with their partner, the victim of narcissistic abuse. The partner is courted, romanced, and ultimately falls in love with the abuser, not knowing that the abuser has ulterior motives, i.e., not staying in the relationship. And the partner envisions wedding details and enjoys the courtship, the flowers, and being placed upon a pedestal. The abuser then suddenly makes a comment denying that they said anything about getting married. They go on to say that the partner is crazy for thinking this, and the partner is dizzy with confusion, recalling that indeed their significant other did discuss wedding bells and a future together. So when this happens, the partner will then experience a state of cognitive dissonance, a hazy unreality and confusion. Such emotional abuse renders the target confused and reeling with heartache that the pace of the relationship has slammed to an abrupt halt. In addition, feelings of betrayal and sadness, being let down, and being blamed. Gaslighting. Many of us know of this insidious form of narcissistic cognitive dissonance. This is another common tactic of emotional abuse that is employed by individuals with narcissistic issues. This is gaslighting. The result of gaslighting is the target begins to doubt their own sense of reality and of the situation, because the abuser is trying to confuse and disorientate the target in order to maintain full power and control at all costs of the emotional well-being of the target. So, using validation to diffuse cognitive dissonance, what does this mean? Cognitive dissonance is diffused and reduced when the survivor of narcissistic abuse is able to receive validation and confirmation of the reality of their circumstances. And narrating the story can take place verbally in psychotherapy sessions and or the use of, say, a journaling exercise. And although this is just the very beginning of the healing process, mastering trauma associated with narcissistic abuse ensues when the target has unconditional positive regard, validation for their experience, psychoeducation about the nature of narcissistic abuse recovery, and empowerment as they move through the emotions associated with grief and trauma in recovery. Being able to vocalize or write about the particulars of the experience of narcissistic abuse enables the survivor to reduce cognitive dissonance and continue with the healing work. Talking to a licensed, compassionate therapist can be helpful. You could also talk to a coach. This can be helpful, and it can be a helpful step moving forward in your healing, but you must remember that there are many more steps in the healing process. But working through cognitive dissonance is a key initial component in reducing trauma and anxiety in survivors of narcissistic abuse. Betrayal trauma it might be hard to understand betrayal trauma if you have never experienced it. In fact, it is usually very complex and can be difficult to treat by yourself. However, understanding it may bring about insight and clarity. Betrayal trauma occurs after a significant violation of trust within a close relationship. For example, discovering infidelity of your partner on part of your partner, this could lead to significant betrayal trauma. Likewise, children who are living with abusive or neglectful parents may also develop symptoms of betrayal trauma. So, what are the symptoms of betrayal trauma? Betrayal trauma happens because of abuse or of a significant violation of one's trust. As a result, there are many physical and emotional issues that accompany betrayal trauma. Physical symptoms manifest as low energy, problems sleeping, flashbacks, nightmares, having dreams about the abuser or the person in your life, medical issues that are new or worsening problems, eating too much or too little, headaches, and the emotional symptoms may include new or worsening depression, low motivation, new or worsening anxiety, hard time focusing, intense mood swings, anger, suicidal thoughts, paranoid states or hyper awareness, uncontrollable emotions, and many people who experience betrayal trauma report feeling very alone in their feelings. For example, you may not want to tell anyone about your partner's affair or their addiction. Likewise, you may feel as if you are somehow to blame for your spouse's behavior or your significant other's behavior, although you must know none of it is your fault. And believing it is can leave you looking inward instead of seeking support outside. So, what does betrayal trauma do to the brain? When you experience uh, trauma from somebody that you relied on for safety and security, it can lead to a variety of complications. And after betrayal trauma, you may enter into a survival type mindset. For example, thoughts that may lead you into a very intense state of hypervigilance. And it is exhausting. It's your brain's way of trying to protect you from another blind side. And as a result, you may become more anxious and irritable. You may have a hard time shifting your focus. And the science behind this is the fear center of your brain takes over in an effort to prevent, again, another painful blindside. And in situations where you're totally reliant on the relationship, you may try to ignore the abuse or ignore the betrayal in an effort to survive. For example, this is prevalent in abuse in child to parent relationships. Likewise, if your spouse, say, is the main provider, you may feel it's necessary to endure this. And as a result, this invokes complex emotions and behaviors as you wrestle with the betrayal trauma and try to survive or maintain a sense of normalcy. If you or someone you love is living with betrayal trauma, there is absolutely help. Talking to a doctor, a therapist, or a coach is a very good place to start. For example, counseling may be a great way for you to begin to process the trauma that you have endured. It may be beneficial to have coping skills to turn heavy emotions when they leave you feeling weighed down. And examples of these valuable skills include deep breathing exercises, meditation, exercise, going for a walk, yoga, stretching, listening to uplifting music, taking out some time alone, counting to 10, saying something kind to yourself, talking with a friend, writing down your emotions in a journal, visualizing your favorite place, thinking of a happy memory, a pet that you love. And if you know someone who is living with betrayal trauma, it is important that they have support. And after all, this is a complex and difficult issue, and healing can take a lot of time. Furthermore, without help, you could suffer from symptoms indefinitely. And having a close friend or family member, in addition to professional support, it can be crucial to your mental and your physical health. My name is Sara Ann Brown, and this is Narcissistic Abuse 101.